3 a.m. Your apartment is dead quiet. You are finally in that deep, heavy sleep, the kind your body has been begging for all week. And then the signal hits. That dull pressure, low in your abdomen, pulling you out of the dark. You try to ignore it. You roll over, but it builds. So you throw back the covers, drop your feet onto the cold floor, and shuffle to the bathroom like you've done 1,000 times before. You squint against the light. You do what you came to do. You come back to bed, and sleep is gone. Your mind starts running. Work, bills, the kids. You lie there for 45 minutes. You finally drift off and it happens again. Second trip tonight. You wake up in the morning shattered, heavy-headed, pouring coffee into yourself just to function. And somewhere along the way, someone told you this was normal. It's just age. Everybody gets up at night. I'm here to tell you that is a lie. It is not a diagnosis. It is a dismissal. Your body was built to sleep 7 to 8 hours straight without a single interruption. At night, your brain produces a specific hormone called antidiuretic hormone, also known as vasopressin. Its job is to tell your kidneys to slow down, concentrate the urine, run in economy mode. That mechanism exists precisely so you can sleep through the night. If it is failing, something specific is broken, and it is not your age. I'm Dr. Richard Thompson, 15 years of clinical practice, and this is the complaint I hear more than almost any other. What you're about to hear, nobody at your next appointment is going to volunteer. The system makes money when you stay on pills, not when someone explains the actual mechanism. That ends right now. Let me give you a simple image. Your home's fire alarm goes off in the middle of the night. What do most people do? They rip the battery out. They tape over the sensor. The noise stops. The fire keeps burning. That is exactly what most men are doing with their nighttime bathroom trips. They take bladder pills. They buy prostate supplements off the internet. They stop drinking water after 6 p.m. and go to bed with a dry mouth. And they still wake up at 2 a.m. with a full bladder. Why? Because the bladder is the alarm, not the fire. In 80% of cases, your bladder is perfectly healthy. It is doing exactly what it is designed to do, emptying what gets put into it. The real question, the one nobody is asking at your appointment, is this: who is filling it during the night, and why? In medicine, nighttime urination divides into 3 fundamentally different types. The first is global polyuria. You produce too much urine around the clock, day and night, large volumes every time. The second is nocturnal polyuria. During the day, you are completely fine. Normal trips, normal volume. But the moment you lie down, the flooding begins. 3, 4 trips a night, each time a full bladder. In the morning, you cannot figure out where it all came from. The third is a reservoir problem. Frequent urgent trips, but almost nothing comes out. The bladder itself has lost its ability to stretch properly. Here is the critical number. Nocturnal polyuria, type 2, accounts for 60 to 70% of nighttime urination in men over 50. And if that is your type, every prostate pill and every bladder supplement you have been buying is aimed at the wrong organ entirely. You have been taping over the alarm for years. Today, we find the fire. Picture a plastic bottle half filled with water. When it stands upright, the water sits at the bottom. Lay it on its side and the water distributes evenly. Your body works the same way. 16 hours a day you are vertical. Standing, sitting, working. Gravity pulls everything downward. Blood, lymphatic fluid, the water between your cells, all of it toward your feet and ankles. When you were young, your veins behaved like strong elastic tubes. Small valves inside them held blood firmly and prevented it from pooling below. The muscles in your calves, every time you walked, contracted and pumped that blood upward against gravity. But with age, or if you spend your days sitting at a desk or on a couch, this mechanism fails. Veins stretch. Valves leak. The muscle pump shuts down. Fluid begins seeping through vessel walls into the soft tissue of your legs. Silently. No pain. No visible swelling. Up to 1.5 liters of water can accumulate in the loose connective tissue of your lower legs without you noticing a thing. 1.5 liters. That is 3 full mugs of tea hiding in your calves. Now you lie down. Your legs rise to the same level as your heart and kidneys. Gravity no longer holds that fluid in place. It rushes back into the bloodstream in a powerful wave. Blood volume spikes. Your heart detects the overload and releases a hormone called atrial natriuretic peptide, ANP, a chemical telegram to the kidneys. The message is brief: dump the excess, or I will fail. Your kidneys shift into emergency filtration. Your bladder fills. You wake up. You are quite literally drinking through your legs. One of my patients, I will call him Victor, 54 years old, spent 8 months on prostate supplements, restricted his water after 5 p.m., still woke up 4 to 5 times a night, releasing half a liter each time. His PSA was normal, bladder clean, prostate mildly enlarged but nowhere near enough to explain the picture. So I stopped asking about his bladder and started asking about his life. Shortness of breath climbing stairs, socks leaving deep grooves in his skin by evening. I sent him to a cardiologist and a sleep specialist. The cardiologist found early-stage heart failure. The sleep specialist found obstructive sleep apnea. Victor had been fixing a leaking faucet while a pipe had burst in the basement. You might ask, fine, I understand about the legs and gravity, but I also eat. Can food affect this process? Absolutely. In ways that will genuinely surprise you. There are foods that act like a delayed switch on your kidneys, programming them to do their heaviest work at night. And you are probably eating them at dinner every evening, sincerely believing they are harmless. When I ask patients what they eat in the evenings, most say the same thing. Doctor, I watch what I eat. No pickled herring, no salty snacks. I am being careful. Then it turns out dinner was a cheese sandwich, some cured sausage, or crackers with cream cheese before bed. Here is what most people do not understand. 80% of the sodium you consume comes from processed and packaged food, not the shaker on your table. 100 grams of ordinary hard cheese contains as much sodium as an entire bag of potato chips. You do not taste that sharp saltiness because fat and flavor compounds mask it completely, but it is there. Here is how it destroys your night. You eat that cheese sandwich at 7 p.m. Sodium enters your blood. Your body immediately activates its defense. Too much salt, dilute it. It holds on to every molecule of water it can find. In the evening, you are not running to the bathroom because the salt is locking water inside your tissues. But overnight, your kidneys detect the accumulated sodium and begin flushing it out. And sodium is a magnet. It drags water behind it. You wake up at 2 a.m. not because you drank too much. You are eliminating last night's dinner. The second enemy is evening sugar, a cup of tea with cookies, an apple before bed. Simple carbohydrates spike blood glucose. Your pancreas fires insulin. Insulin signals your kidneys to retain sodium and water. 2 to 3 hours later, right as you have fallen asleep, blood sugar crashes and your kidneys switch to active excretion. If you have even a degree of insulin resistance, and that affects a substantial portion of men over 40, sugar itself pulls water out of your cells and into the urine. A handful of grapes before bed becomes a biological water pill. The third false friend is alcohol. A glass of brandy or a beer to sleep harder. This is one of the most widespread forms of self-deception I encounter. Alcohol does help you fall asleep. It sedates the nervous system. But it simultaneously obliterates vasopressin production, the hormone that tells your kidneys to slow down at night. Under its influence, your brain simply does not send the signal. Your kidneys run at full, unregulated filtration speed all night long. You wake up wrecked with a bursting bladder. The outcome is worse than if you had not had a drink at all. Now I want to talk about the organ everyone blames, but almost nobody understands: your prostate. Most men over 50 have been told their prostate is enlarging and that this is simply what happens with age, an inevitable process. Nothing to do but manage it. That is only half the story. The other half is something your urologist and your cardiologist are both looking at from different angles, and neither one is connecting. It is blood flow. As men age, circulation to the prostate diminishes. The vessels feeding it narrow. Delivery of oxygen and nutrients slows. Waste clearance from the tissue drops. And here is what happens when a gland stops receiving adequate blood. A 2023 study from Fukushima Medical University in Japan examined what is called stromal cell proliferation, That is the buildup of cells around the outer edges of the prostate. The researchers demonstrated that this buildup is directly linked to impaired blood flow in and around the gland. When circulation drops, cells that should be metabolized and cleared away are not. They accumulate. The prostate grows. Not because aging makes it inevitable, because a circulatory failure that can be addressed is being ignored. A congested, enlarged prostate compresses the urethra and irritates the nerve pathways surrounding the bladder. The bladder begins signaling fullness at tiny volumes. You feel desperate urgency and produce almost nothing. That is not a bladder malfunction. That is a prostate being strangled by its own poor blood supply. At the center of this mechanism is a molecule called nitric oxide. Nitric oxide relaxes the inner muscles of your blood vessels, including the vessels feeding the prostate. It is what allows nutrient-rich blood to reach every cell in that gland. When nitric oxide levels decline, and they decline with age, sedentary habits, and poor diet, the prostate's blood supply quietly collapses. This is the link between cardiovascular health and urinary symptoms that almost no one explains to you. Two specialists looking at two chapters of the same book, neither one reading the other's pages. The fourth factor operates in silence. No sharp pain, no fever, no obvious symptom you can point to. But it is running in the background every hour of every day, and it is making your bladder behave as though it has lost its mind. I am talking about chronic, low-grade inflammation. Here is what that means in practical terms. Your bladder wall is lined with a muscle called the detrusor. The detrusor is what contracts to push urine out when you go to the bathroom. In a healthy state, it stretches calmly as the bladder fills, holding 200 to 300 milliliters before sending a signal to your brain that it is time. But when inflammatory compounds are circulating through your bloodstream, they reach the bladder tissue and irritate the detrusor from the inside. Nerve endings become hypersensitive. The alarm threshold drops. Instead of signaling at 250 milliliters, the bladder fires at 50. You feel a sudden, desperate urge, rush to the bathroom, and almost nothing comes out. 40 minutes later, the same storm. The reservoir is fine. The alarm system is haywire. Where does this inflammation come from? Multiple sources. A disrupted gut microbiome increases intestinal permeability. Bacterial fragments cross into the bloodstream and trigger an inflammatory cascade that reaches your pelvic organs. A liver working above capacity redistributes its toxic load to other systems. Poor diet feeds the process. And then there is stress. Chronic daily stress that most men no longer even register because it has become the background noise of their lives. Cortisol, the primary stress hormone, suppresses vasopressin production at night. It degrades the bladder's protective mucosal lining, and it keeps the nervous system locked in a state of hypervigilance where every small sensation becomes an emergency. Here is a specific technique. Sit comfortably or lie down. Inhale through your nose for a count of 4. Hold for 7. Exhale slowly through your mouth for 8. A long breath out, as if blowing out a candle across the room. 4, 7, 8. Repeat 4 times. 2 minutes total. This activates the vagus nerve, the primary nerve of the parasympathetic system, the branch responsible for rest, recovery, and restoration. Heart rate slows. Cortisol clears. The bladder calms. Every single night before bed. 2 minutes that cost nothing and change everything. The fifth factor is one that almost no doctor will screen for at a urology appointment. It has nothing to do with your bladder directly. It has everything to do with the muscles that control it. I am talking about your pelvic floor. The pelvic floor is a group of muscles that sits at the base of your pelvis like a hammock. It supports your bladder, controls your urethral sphincter, and determines whether you can hold urine through the night or whether you leak, dribble, and wake up to pressure you cannot override. When those muscles weaken, the sphincter loses its seal, the bladder loses its stability, and no amount of fluid management will compensate for a valve that no longer closes properly. What weakens the pelvic floor? Start with vitamin D. Vitamin D is involved in muscle function throughout your entire body, including the pelvic floor. Deficiency is found in the overwhelming majority of men over 60. Most of them have no idea, because low vitamin D produces no sharp symptom. It works quietly, the way rust corrodes iron from the inside. You do not see it until the structure begins to fail. 15 minutes of sunlight between April and September, with your forearms and face exposed, is sufficient to generate your daily requirement. Then food. Herring, 100 grams, contains roughly 1.5 times the daily recommended intake. 2 egg yolks per day provide 30%. A teaspoon of cod liver covers the rest. Next, zinc. Zinc deficiency is common in men past 50, and it directly impairs prostate cell renewal and immune function in pelvic tissue. The most accessible source is raw pumpkin seeds. Not roasted, not salted. Raw. A handful daily, roughly 30 grams, delivers both zinc and magnesium in highly bioavailable form. Magnesium matters because it relaxes smooth muscle, including the detrusor. Without adequate magnesium, your bladder wall stays in a state of chronic tension, contracting prematurely at low volumes. One more. Cranberries. Not the bottled juice cocktail from the store that contains more sugar than soda, and sugar is already on our enemy's list. The actual berry, frozen or fresh. Cranberries contain proanthocyanidins, compounds that prevent bacteria from adhering to the inner lining of the bladder. Even without an active infection, many men over 40 carry a low-grade bacterial presence that chronically irritates nerve endings and makes the bladder hypersensitive. Cranberry calms that lining. Add a handful to oatmeal or to unsweetened tea. Ordinary products from an ordinary grocery store. No prescription required. Now I want to give you something you can do tonight. No appointment, no equipment, no cost. 4 tests that will tell you more about what is actually driving your nighttime trips than most clinic visits will. Test 1. Sit comfortably and expose your lower leg between the knee and the ankle. Find your shin bone, the hard surface along the front with no muscle covering it. Place the pad of your thumb against that bone roughly 4 to 6 inches above your ankle. Press firmly and hold for 10 to 15 seconds. Remove your thumb and run another finger across the same spot. If the skin springs back immediately, smooth and flat, no significant edema. But if your thumb left a pit, a visible dent that does not fill back in for several seconds, you have just located a hidden reservoir of fluid. Even if your leg looks completely normal from the outside, that pit is proof that your tissues are saturated with water. And at night, every drop of it will funnel through your kidneys. Test 2. On your next day off, measure your urine output. Any container with volume markings will do. Record daytime and nighttime separately. Include the very first urination after waking in the nighttime total. Add the numbers. If your nighttime output exceeds 1/3 of the total, that is nocturnal polyuria. Your kidneys have inverted their schedule because of fluid redistribution, not because of your bladder, not because of your prostate. Test 3. Press on the nail of your big toe until it turns white. Release. Count how quickly the pink color returns. Under 2 seconds is normal. Over 2 seconds means blood flow to that extremity is impaired. Emergency responders use this test routinely. You can run it at home in 5 seconds. Test 4. Remove your socks this evening and look at your lower legs. If the elastic has left a visible groove pressed into your skin, that is the signature of fluid that has been sitting in your tissue all day long, waiting for you to lie down so it can move. If 3 or 4 of these come back positive, the picture is clear. This is not a bladder problem. This is a circulation problem, a fluid redistribution problem, a hormonal signaling problem. And now you know exactly where to aim. Everything we have discussed, the 5 factors, the tests, the mechanisms, all of it leads here. A simple daily protocol. Morning, daytime, and evening. 5 minutes total. No equipment, no cost. I call it the golden protocol. Morning. The moment you open your eyes, before coffee, before anything, stand up and do what is known as McCoolin's vibrational exercise. Feet shoulder-width apart. Rise 1 to 2 centimeters onto the balls of your feet. Then let your heels drop back to the floor with a light, firm impact. You should feel a mild vibration travel from your calves up through your thighs and into your abdomen. 30 repetitions, 30 seconds. What is happening? Inside your veins are small valves that prevent blood from flowing backward and pooling downward. With age and inactivity, these valves become sluggish. The rhythmic vibration shakes them back into action and pushes blood upward against gravity from the very start of the day. That is the best prevention for evening leg swelling, and it begins at 7 a.m. Daytime. One firm rule. 70% of your total daily fluid intake should happen before 4 p.m. Water after waking, a bottle at your desk, tea and soup at lunch. After 4 p.m., only small sips is needed, and remove the salt shaker from your table entirely. Salt food only in the pot during cooking. That single change reduces daily sodium by 20 to 30% without altering what you eat. Evening. This is the piece worth watching this entire video for. 1 to 1.5 hours before bed, lie down on your sofa or on the floor. Place your legs up on the armrest, the back of a chair, or against the wall. One requirement. Your heels must be higher than the level of your heart. Stay there for 15 to 20 minutes. Read, scroll your phone, listen to a podcast. What happens during those 20 minutes is the physics we discussed. Gravity pushes fluid from the sponge of your lower legs back into the bloodstream while you are awake. Your heart releases ANP, your kidneys filter. 30 to 40 minutes later, you go to the bathroom and release 300 to 400 milliliters, the exact volume that would otherwise have woken you at 3 a.m. Before sleep, lying in bed, lights out, do 20 to 30 Kegel repetitions, but 90% of men do this wrong. They squeeze their buttocks, tighten their abdomen, clench their thighs. That accomplishes nothing. Imagine pulling your perineum upward like an elevator rising from the ground floor to the 5th. Abdomen completely soft, buttocks relaxed. Only the pelvic floor contracts. Hold 3 seconds. Release slowly. Dietary shifts alongside. Eliminate hidden evening salt. Cut the evening sugar. Drop the nightcap. Add raw pumpkin seeds during the day. Real cranberry with oatmeal. Fiber-rich vegetables at dinner to keep the colon from compressing the bladder overnight. Week 1. Expect 1 fewer trip. By the end of 1 month with consistent practice, full, uninterrupted nights of sleep. How old are you? Write it in the comments. I want to know who is watching this channel so that future content is built precisely for your age group, your risk profile, and your physiology. That number genuinely shapes the recommendations. Everything we have covered today, the fluid mechanics, the dietary changes, the breathing, the movement, addresses the external factors. And those factors matter enormously. But there is one internal factor that the protocol alone cannot fully reach: the health of the prostate gland itself and the blood circulation feeding it. Remember what we discussed earlier: the Fukushima Medical University research showing that cell buildup around the prostate is directly linked to impaired blood flow. You can elevate your legs every evening and eliminate sodium from dinner. But if the blood vessels inside and around your prostate are not delivering oxygen and nutrients efficiently, the gland continues to deteriorate quietly from the inside. This is the piece that frustrated me for years in clinical practice. Patients who followed the protocol diligently and improved dramatically, but still had residual symptoms because the prostate itself was not getting the vascular support it needed. That is why, after years of searching for something I could genuinely stand behind, I began recommending Prostavive. And the results are why I am talking about it now. Prostavive is not another generic prostate pill. It is a formula specifically designed to support prostate blood circulation and healthy nitric oxide levels, the exact mechanism we discussed. 1 glass a day. The blend includes boron, one of the most potent prostate-supporting minerals known, originally sourced from the crystallized deposits of Lake Yamdok Cho in Tibet. Tongkat Ali, used for centuries in the East to support prostate circulation and sexual function. Ashwagandha, traced back to 6000 BC for prostate health and the detoxification of cellular buildup. Nettle root, for urinary tract health and healthy hormone levels. zinc and magnesium in bioavailable form, vitamin D, and Panax ginseng for blood flow, immune support, and sustained energy. These are not random ingredients thrown into a capsule. They are selected for a specific synergistic effect. Support healthy blood flow to the prostate, help metabolize the cell accumulation around its edges, maintain healthy nitric oxide levels, and give the gland what it needs to function the way it did when you were younger. Men who combine the Golden Protocol with Prostavive are the ones who report the most dramatic changes. Not just fewer nighttime trips, but deeper sleep, more energy during the day, a revived sense of confidence, and improvements in their intimate life that they had written off as gone forever. Here is how to find it. Click on the logo of my channel page, and you will see Prostavive right there. There are 3 options: a single bottle for a 30-day trial, a 3-bottle package for 90 days, or the 6-bottle package, which is the one I recommend because this is not a 1-week experiment. The protocol works over time, and you want enough supply to see the full transformation without interruption. Your body is not broken. Your bladder is not your enemy. It is a signal light. The protocol gives you control over the physics. Prostavive gives your prostate the internal support it has been starving for. Together, they are the complete system. I am Dr. Richard Thompson, and this channel exists because 15 years in practice taught me what men need to hear and almost never get told. Nobody in a white coat is going to walk you through this at an appointment. There is no revenue in patients who do not need to come back. That is a fact of the system, not a criticism of individuals.